65%. It would seem to me that that represents a major obstacle to any attempts to grow and progress in your country. What is your government doing and planning to deal with what seems to me an insurmountable problem to growth and progress?
I think the statistics really from this record are a little bit obsolete and stale, and I think the literacy rate now is about 30%. So, not the literacy rate. The illiteracy rate is 30%, not the literacy rate. But then, apart from that, there is much done now within the government to encourage human development in terms of health and education. And recently we discovered that there were the rate of failure was very high, and there was a commission that was put in place to change the educational structure, and that is being done. And there's also the poise to bring in a lot of vocational and training technical institutes. And also there's a strive to increase the number of universities within the country. There's the plan to have almost in every province, we have 3 provinces, for any province to have a university. And there's one in the south, there's one in the capital, but then there are plans to have one in the north. So there's a lot done to bring in, to improve education. We had a flight of a brain drain, more or less, as one would call it, because of the effect of the war. So a lot of our experts, teachers and everything left, and some never returned because of greener pastures. But then that is being corrected as of now. And so we hope that Millennium Development Goal 2, which is universal primary education, would perhaps help us in trying to correct the drive towards the pursuit of education at that lower stage. And then we encourage more skills training and capacity building as such. And with our assistance from some of our international partners, we may have scholarships from some other countries to train our capable people in some of these skills and everything. So
the question of the link between education and development is part of the axiom. Most of us believe that that is an essential link. But then you have a country like Sri Lanka, which is described as the country with the highest literacy in the world, much higher than the United States. Sri Lanka is 98% literate, and yet it is as underdeveloped and as unfortunate as other countries. So I think we have to take your question with a slight pinch of salt.
Sure. What do you think the public perception is of Western culture right now in your nation and in Africa in general?
What do you think of Western culture?
I think, first of all, you have to have what actually is Western culture.
Western culture is wearing a tie, which is the most foolish thing. Imagine going around like a dog with a thing around your neck, which serves no purpose. Why do you wear a tie?
Then if that is the case, then Western culture is dwindling, because there are a lot of people who go out without ties nowadays. So we don't know. So Western culture, as we used to know it, is perhaps dwindling now, because a lot of people, in fact, prefer to wear their jeans and go casual. Even when you ask for conventional attire, they go in that form. But in any case, I think culture is not just attire. Culture is a way of life, a way of thinking. And for us, I think there is much to gain from both sides. Both sides have their advantages and disadvantages. In some cases, it's negative because too much of freedom, too much of laxity breeds a lot of ill will and breeds a lot of negativism. And whereas within the primitive setting as it is, there are also advantages and disadvantages. So I think there has to be some cross-fertilization between the two. And then you have the ideal.
Yes, but you had a very strong movement in Africa, which started with Senegal, of negritude, of pride in Africanism. And I think that is the question. How much pride do you have in Africanism as opposed to pride in European culture?
Well, this is what I'm trying to say, because those were days when countries were just more or less fighting to be independent. And some of these concepts and ideas grew up negritude, and then here, perhaps in America, black is beautiful and this sort of thing. But then these are days when those ideas are more or less being toned down for economic growth. The emphasis everywhere now is bread and butter. That's my own short answer to you. Bread and butter is the answer everywhere. And in those days of concepts, negritude, the African personality, and this and that have gone. Every country now wants to progress. And this is the age of globalization. So it's cross-fertilization of ideas. And that is what we're interested in, even in terms of culture.
Hi. As a member of the African Union, how would you judge the international response to the current conflict in Sudan?
The international response in the conflict in Sierra Leone?
In Sudan.
In Sudan.
I think the reference is to Darfur more than to southern Sudan.
Darfur.
Yeah, Darfur.
Well, in Darfur, you know, you have UNAMID, which is more or less a concerted effort by the UN and the African Union in order to bring stability there. There's always one thing I believe, is that whatever the level of international intervention in any conflict, the success of it lies with the people themselves. They must be ready to make peace. They must be ready to reconcile their differences. And it's only within that setting that any international effort could be meaningful and be progressive. Once you have that, then I'm sure you have nothing to blame the international effort there.
Okay. Hello. I had a question. How open are you guys to, your country is open to human rights, human differences? I know in one of my classes we're talking about gay rights, hermaphrodite, like their rights and stuff like that, like their differences. How, like your country, how are they open to those differences, to those human rights and stuff? Am I cleared on?
Yeah, I think you're clear, but are you talking about gender or you want to talk about gay rights?
Both. Both. Like
Both.
genders and human rights in general.
Okay. Well, let me tell you that just a few months ago, the Sierra Leone launched the National Action Plan on Gender Empowerment and Women's Rights and Security. And in our country as such, women are playing a very effective role in decision making. And you find them occupying very high public office also. Now, the Chief Justice